Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a serious day of ELA 1 with Mr. Williamson, your favorite class of the day. I'm serious. No jokes today. Serious. Stop. It's serious. Stop. Oh my God. Guys, serious. Be serious. It's serious. Okay? Serious pages of the book today. All right, everyone. I want to get you right to it. There's a lot that's going to happen. Prepare yourselves. Okay. First, we have the quote of the day. It comes from a great philosopher, Bertrand Russell. He says, collective fear, so a group of fear, stimulates herd instinct and tends to produce ferocity towards those who are not regarded as members of the herd. So fear creates people attacking things outside of their group in herd mentality. So that brings us to our objective today. It is linked. Our objective for the day. I can explain how herd mentality shapes the boys' behavior. You just learned about herd mentality and what it is. I want to explain it a little bit further and the key details that you need to remember about it. Okay, everyone, we're going to look at this passage. There's just some key ideas I want to hit on. They're super important for today's lesson. So herd mentality is a phrase used to explain why and how people are influenced by others. So not only how, but also why people are influenced by other people. Think of herd mentality as almost like peer pressure, okay? If you see another person, if another person is telling you to do something, or you see a whole group of people that are doing something and they're telling you to do it, then you are much more likely to you're much more likely to do that thing. Okay, so that's kind of like what herd mentality is. Especially important is what Bertrand Russell said. It was our quote of the day. He says that herd mentality can be especially likely, so much more likely to happen in times of danger. Okay, so when there's fear, it stimulates herd instinct. Okay, and it produces ferocity, which means savage cruelty. So it produces cruelty and savagery towards those who are not regarded as members of the herd. Important concepts to keep in mind today during the reading. Okay, everyone, so what I need you to do now is get your books open at page 147. If you do not have your book open, go ahead, pause now and do it and get it out. Remember, when you read with me, you become a better reader. Not only that, but you're going to need to go back and look and find some certain quotes for me today. So our focus for these pages, what type of leader is Jack and how is he acting on these pages? So we return back down to the island. Remember, Jack and the few hunters that were with him said that they had killed a boar, which they had, and that they were going to have a feast, and anyone who wanted meat was allowed to come. We're now going to kind of return to that feast and see what is going on. Okay, everyone, so we are going to start reading about halfway down page 147, where the page break is at bathing. Bathing, said Ralph. That's the only thing to do. Piggy was inspecting the looming sky through his glass. I don't like them clouds. Remember how it rained just after we landed? Going to rain again. Ralph dived into the pool. A couple of little ones were playing at the edge, trying to extract comfort from a wetness warmer than blood. Piggy took off his glasses, stepped primly into the water, and then put them on again. Ralph came to the surface and squirted a jet of water at him. Mind my specs, said Piggy. If I get water on the glass, I gotta get out and clean them. Ralph squirted again and missed. He laughed at Piggy, expecting him to retire meekly as usual in pained silence. Instead, Piggy beat the water with his hands. Stop it, he shouted. Do you hear? Furiously, he drove the water into Ralph's face. All right, said Ralph. Keep your hair on. Piggy stopped beating the water. I got a pain in my head. I wish the air was cooler. I wish the rain would come. I wish we could go home. Piggy lay back against the sloping sand side of the pool. His stomach protruded and the water dried on it. Ralph squinted up at the sky. One could guess at the movement of the sun by the progress of a light patch among the clouds. He knelt in the water and looked round. Where's everybody? Piggy sat up. Perhaps they're lying in the shelter? Where's Sam and Eric? And Bill? Piggy pointed beyond the platform. That's where they've gone. Jack's party. Let them go, said Ralph uneasily. I don't care. Just for some meat. And for hunting, said Ralph wisely, and for pretending to be a tribe and putting on war paint. Piggy stirred the sand underwater and did not look at Ralph. "Perhaps we ought to go too." Ralph looked at him quickly and Piggy blushed. "I mean, to make sure nothing happens." Ralph squirted water again. Okay, so now Piggy and Ralph are going to go to Jack's feast. Long before Ralph and Piggy came up with Jack's lot, they could hear the party. There was a stretch of grass and a place where the palms left a wide band of turf between the forest and the shore. Just one step down from the edge of the turf was the white, blown sand above high water, warm, dry, trodden. Below that again was a rock that stretched away toward the lagoon. Beyond was a short stretch of sand and then the edge of the water. A fire burned on the rock and fat dripped from the roasting pig meat into the invisible flames. All the boys of the island, except Piggy, Ralph, Simon, and the other two tending the pig, were grouped on the turf. They were laughing, singing, lying, squatting, or standing on the grass, holding food in their hands. But to judge by the greasy faces, the meat eating was almost done, and some held coconut shells in their hands and were drinking from them. Before the party had started, a great log had been dragged into the center of the lawn, and Jack, painted and garlanded, sat there like an idol. There were piles of meat on green leaves near him, and fruit and coconut shells full of drink. And that is going to bring us to our first question. This on the right, this is a picture of an idol, a statue of a god that Hindu people worship. So this is what a typical idol would look like. So on the top of page 149, this is the description. Before the party had started, a great log had been dragged into the center of the lawn, and Jack, painted and garlanded, that means like kind of like a necklace of flowers, painted and garlanded, sat there like an idol. So it says he sat there like an idol. So the question is, why do you think Jack is described as being like an idol in this scene? Go ahead and answer that in 1 to 2 sentences now. Okay, so he is likely described as an idol because he is being treated like a god. He's painted. He's kind of like hiding, like he doesn't look human almost because of his paint. And he's draped in flowers and gifts of meat. And so he's got flowers and meat and necklaces and all this paint all over him, and he sits there. So that's probably why he's described as being like an idol. Okay, so now we are going to continue at the first full paragraph on page 149 at Piggy and Ralph. Piggy and Ralph came to the edge of the grassy platform, and the boys, as they noticed them, fell silent one by one till only the boy next to Jack was talking. Then the silence intruded even there, and Jack turned where he sat. For a time he looked at them, and the crackle of the fire was the loudest noise over the droning of the reef. Ralph looked away, and Sam, thinking that Ralph had turned to him accusingly, put down his gnawed bone with a nervous giggle. Ralph took an uncertain step, pointed to a palm tree, and whispered something inaudible to Piggy, and they both giggled like Sam. Lifting his feet high out of the sand, Ralph started to stroll past. Piggy tried to whistle. At this moment, the boys who were cooking at the fire suddenly hauled off a great chunk of meat and ran with it toward the grass. They bumped Piggy, who was burnt, and yelled and danced. Immediately, Ralph and the crowd of the boys were united and relieved by a storm of laughter. Piggy once more was the center of social derision, so that everyone felt cheerful and normal. Jack stood up and waved a spear. "Take them some meat." The boys with the spit gave Ralph and Piggy each a succulent chunk. They took the gift, dribbling. So they stood and ate beneath a sky of thunderous brass that rang with the storm coming. Jack waved his spear again. "Has everybody eaten as much as they want?" There was still food left, sizzling on the wooden spits, heaped on the green platters. Betrayed by his stomach, Piggy threw a picked bone down on the beach and stooped for more. Jack spoke again, impatiently. "Has everybody eaten as much as they want?" His tone conveyed a warning, giving out of the pride of ownership, and the boys ate faster while there was still time. Seeing there was no immediate likelihood of a pause, Jack rose from the log that was his throne and sauntered to the edge of the grass. He looked down from behind his paint at Ralph and Piggy. They moved a little further off over the sand, and Ralph watched the fire as he ate. He noticed, without understanding, how the flames were visible now against the dull light. Evening was coming, not with calm beauty, but but with a threat of violence. Jack spoke. "Give me a drink." Henry brought him a shell and he drank. Watching Piggy and Ralph over the jagged rim, power lay in the brown swell of his forearms. Authority sat on his shoulders and chattered in his ear like an ape. All sit down. All right, everyone, so that is going to pull us into some questions about Jack and his leadership style from pages 149 and 150. Here's two quotes. First one, has everybody eaten as much as they want? His tone conveyed a warning, giving out the pride of ownership, and the boys ate faster while there was still time. In the second quote, Jack says, "Give me a drink." And the narrator says, power lay in the brown swell of his forearms. Authority sat on his shoulders and chattered in his ear like an ape. So what I want you to do is to consider these two quotes. What do they reveal about Jack and his leadership? I want you to answer in at least two sentences. What do these quotes show about Jack and his style of leadership? Do that now. Okay, so these quotes show that Jack is a dominating leader. Okay, he takes ownership for the boys' food. It says he given out the pride of ownership. In other words, he's saying, eat now while you still can because it's my food and I'll do what I want with it. And he controls how much they eat. He makes other boys serve him food. He says, give me a drink, and Henry comes and gives him a drink. He almost seems drunk on power. He seems so powerful. He's controlling everything. Okay, everyone, so we're going to keep reading about halfway down 150 at the boys ranged themselves. The boys ranged themselves and rose on the grass before him, but Ralph and Piggy stayed a foot lower, standing on the soft sand. Jack ignored them for the moment, turned his mask down to the seated boys, and pointed at them with the spear. Who's going to join my tribe? Ralph made a sudden movement that became a stumble. Some of the boys turned toward him. I gave you food, said Jack, and my hunters will protect you from the beast. Who will join my tribe? I'm chief, said Ralph, because you chose me, and we were going to keep the fire going. Now you run after food. You ran yourself, shouted Jack. Look at that bone in your hands. Ralph went crimson. I said you were hunters. That was your job. Jack ignored him again. Who will join my tribe and have fun? I'm chief, said Ralph tremulously. And what about the fire? And I've got the conch. You haven't got it with you, said Jack, sneering. You left it behind. See? Clever. And the conch doesn't count at this end of the island. All at once the thunder struck. Instead of the dull boom, there was a point of impact in the explosion. The conch counts here too, said Ralph, and all over the island. What are you going to do about it then?